Welcome back to Global Eye. Today, we're covering the devastating downfall of one of Hollywood's most beloved stars. Kevin Costner, now 70 years old, is facing what may be the darkest period of his entire life. After a brutal 19-year marriage ended in a public and humiliating divorce, after losing millions on a passion project that became a box office catastrophe, and after watching his ex-wife marry a family friend just months after their split was finalized, Kevin Costner stands at 70 as a man who seemingly has lost everything that mattered. In May 2023, Christine Baumgartner filed for divorce, blindsiding Costner and triggering a vicious legal battle over child support, property, and custody of their 3 teenage children. The divorce was finalized in February 2024 after months of public humiliation. Then, just 8 months later, in October 2025, Christine married financier Josh Connor, a family friend. In an intimate wedding that Costner's own friends refused to attend out of loyalty to him. Meanwhile, Costner invested $38 million of his own money into his Western epic Horizon, mortgaging his Santa Barbara estate to finance his dream. The film bombed spectacularly, earning only $32 million total and potentially wiping out a huge chunk of his fortune. If you're new here, subscribe and hit that notification bell, because this is a story about how quickly success can turn to devastation, how betrayal feels when it comes from someone you loved, and what it's like to watch your life crumble while the world watches. Let's dive into the heartbreaking truth about Kevin Costner. On May 1st, 2023, Kevin Costner's world imploded. His wife of nearly 19 years, Christine Baumgartner, filed for divorce, citing irreconcilable differences and listing April 11th as their date of separation. For Costner, who was deep into filming his passion project Horizon and still starring in the mega-hit series Yellowstone, the divorce filing came as a devastating shock, according to multiple sources. Costner had reportedly been working to save the marriage and was blindsided by Christine's decision to file. He later told Access Hollywood during court meetings, "It feels so bad. We're talking about somebody I love on the other side." But the filing was just the beginning of what would become one of Hollywood's nastiest divorce battles in recent memory. The issues that tore them apart had been building for years. According to reports, Baumgartner became angry that Costner was focusing more on work than family. While Costner was pouring his heart and fortune into Horizon and committing to the grueling schedule of Yellowstone, Christine felt abandoned, left to manage their 3 children largely alone, while her husband chased his Hollywood dreams. The irony is brutal. Costner left Yellowstone in May 2023, ostensibly to focus on Horizon, but the timing suggests that decision may have also been influenced by the fact that his marriage was already falling apart. The divorce documents revealed that Baumgartner wanted out of the marriage she'd been in since September 2004. When she was a 30-year-old handbag designer and Costner was a 49-year-old movie star, fresh off an Oscar win, they had met years earlier on a golf course in 1999, but waited until 2004 to marry. Now, nearly 2 decades and 3 children later, everything they'd built together was being dismantled in the most public and painful way possible. Costner, who had already been through 1 divorce from his first wife, Cindy Silva, after 16 years of marriage, now faced the humiliation of a second high-profile split. Adding to the pain was the fact that Costner is also father to 4 other children from previous relationships, including Annie Sisher, Lily, Sanjaba, and Joe 37 with Silva, plus Liam 28, from a brief relationship. At 69, when the divorce was filed, Costner faced the prospect of navigating custody arrangements for his 3 youngest children while also trying to maintain relationships with his adult children and manage the financial and emotional fallout of his marriage ending. During one court appearance, Costner appeared emotional and weary, telling reporters that his children were looking at him and he couldn't wilt like a daisy, calling the situation a crushing moment. What followed the divorce filing was a months-long legal warfare that played out in humiliating detail in the media. The battle centered on 3 primary issues: Baumgartner's refusal to vacate Costner's Southern California house, the validity of their prenuptial agreement, and the massive amount of child support Baumgartner was demanding. Each issue became a public spectacle that revealed just how acrimonious the split had become. First came the property dispute. Costner claimed that their prenuptial agreement required Baumgartner to vacate his home within 30 days of filing for divorce. He said he'd already given her $1.2 million as part of the prenup, plus $200,000 for a down payment on a new residence. But Baumgartner refused to leave, reportedly staying in the house for months while the legal battle raged. Costner's legal team accused her of refusing in bad faith to leave and argued she was trying to extract more money by staying put. Baumgartner's lawyers countered that she didn't fully understand the prenup when she signed it in 2004 and felt pressured to sign at the time. Then came the child support fight, which became the most explosive and public part of the divorce. Baumgartner initially demanded $248,000 per month in child support for their 3 children, Caden, now 17, Hayes, now 16, and Grace, now 14. Her argument was that the children had grown accustomed to a certain luxurious lifestyle and that this level of wealth was, as she put it, in their DNA. She insisted that Costner should pay for private school tuition, extracurricular activities, healthcare expenses, and maintain the standard of living the children were used to. Baumgartner claimed she had no income as a result of being a stay-at-home parent during their marriage and needed substantial support to care for the children properly, calling Baumgartner's demands nothing short of outrageous. In late August 2023, a judge sided largely with Costner, ordering him to pay approximately $63,209 per month in child support. A far cry from the $248,000 Baumgartner had requested, but still a substantial amount. The judge's ruling was seen as a significant victory for Costner, though he was still on the hook for substantial monthly payments, plus the children's private school costs and other expenses. Baumgartner also requested that Costner pay $885,000 toward her legal fees, an amount Costner's team called outrageous, while the final settlement didn't include the full $885,000. Costner did pay at least $300,000 toward her legal expenses in July 2023, reached in September 2023, and finalized in February 2024, gave both parents joint legal and physical custody of their 3 children. Under the prenuptial agreement that was ultimately upheld, Baumgartner received a $1.5 million payout and 1 year of mortgage, payments on a new home worth up to $1 million, while a representative for Costner told People magazine that the divorce was amicable and that they'd reached a mutually agreed-upon resolution. The months of public fighting told a very different story. This wasn't amicable. This was scorched earth litigation that humiliated both parties and, most tragically, played out while their 3 teenage children watched. Just when Kevin Costner thought the worst was behind him, came the knife in the back that truly devastated him. In July 2023, while the divorce was still being finalized, Christine Baumgartner was spotted on vacation in Hawaii with Josh Connor, a Santa Barbara-based financier. At first, it was just rumors, speculation in tabloids that could be dismissed. But by January 2024, shortly after the divorce was finalized in February, Baumgartner and Connor went public with their relationship, walking hand in hand through Santa Barbara and confirming what everyone had suspected. But here's what made this particularly painful. Josh Connor wasn't just some random new boyfriend. He was a family friend. He and his ex-wife had socialized with Kevin and Christine. Their children had played together. This was someone in their circle, someone Kevin knew, someone who had been around during the marriage. The optics were devastating. Had Christine been emotionally involved with Josh before the divorce? Had their friendship turned romantic while she was still married to Kevin? Baumgartner denied dating Connor before the divorce was finalized, but the timeline raised questions that fueled speculation and gossip. Then came January 26, 2025. Less than a year after the divorce was finalized, Josh Connor proposed to Christine on a Santa Barbara beach in what was described as a romantic surprise. A source told People that it was about to rain, so almost no one else was on the beach when Josh got down on one knee, adding that they are both over the moon and excited for their future together. For Kevin Costner, learning about this engagement was reportedly devastating. According to a close source who spoke to the Daily Mail, Kevin said he felt sucker-punched when his kids told him about the marriage proposal. He said he would have preferred to have heard it straight from Christine. But either way, it still feels like betrayal even after all this time. The source added a particularly painful detail. He just celebrated his birthday. Thank God they waited at least a week to make the announcement. Imagine being Kevin Costner in that moment. Your children, the three teenagers you're fighting to maintain a relationship with during a difficult custody arrangement, are the ones who have to tell you that your ex-wife is marrying a man who used to be considered a friend. The humiliation, the sense of betrayal, the knowledge that Christine had clearly moved on completely while Kevin was still processing the end of his marriage must have been crushing. Then came October 18th, just 8 months after the divorce was finalized. Christine Baumgartner married Josh Connor at the Santa Ynez Ranch in Santa Barbara, California. In an outdoor ceremony attended by about 100 close family and friends, guests described it as magical, authentic, heartfelt, and so very them, with joy and laughter throughout the weekend celebration. Christine and Josh were reportedly glowing, and there wasn't a dry eye in the crowd during the ceremony. Both brought their children to the wedding, blending their families in a picture-perfect moment of new beginnings and happiness. But conspicuously absent from that guest list, anyone loyal to Kevin Costner. According to sources who spoke to the Daily Mail, Kevin's true friends immediately cut off Christine and Josh and would never attend their wedding, even if invited. Their loyalty to Kevin is solid. The wedding, held in the same Santa Barbara area where Kevin and Christine had built their life together, with a family friend Kevin once knew, attended by people from their shared social circle, represented the complete erasure of Kevin from that world. Christine had moved on, remarried, blended families, and created a new life. And Kevin was alone, facing financial ruin, and still trying to figure out how his 19-year marriage had ended with his ex-wife, marrying someone he knew just months after their divorce was finalized. If the divorce wasn't devastating enough, Kevin Costner simultaneously faced a financial catastrophe of his own making. For years, he'd been developing Horizon, an American saga, a 4-part Western epic that he'd envisioned since 1988. This was his passion project. His attempt to recapture the glory of his 1990 masterpiece, Dances with Wolves, which had won him 2 Academy Awards and made him one of Hollywood's most powerful stars. Horizon was supposed to be his comeback, his magnum opus, the project that would define his legacy. But Costner couldn't get traditional Hollywood financing for his ambitious vision. Studios weren't interested in a 4-part Western in an era where superhero movies and franchises dominated, so Costner made a decision that would potentially destroy him financially. He would finance it himself. He initially claimed he'd invested $20 million of his own money. But in a May 2024 interview with Variety, he corrected the record. "I know they say I've got $20 million of my own money in this movie. It's not true. I've got now about $38 million in the film. That's the truth. That's the real number. $38 million. Costner mortgaged his 10-acre Santa Barbara estate to raise the money. He leveraged his property, his security, his children's inheritance, all to make this film. His accountant was, in Costner's own words to Francis Ford Coppola, in a fucking conniption fit. But Costner wouldn't be deterred. "It's my life, and I believe in the idea and the story," he said. Everyone around him, including his ex-wife, Christine, was reportedly terrified they'd wind up broke. Financial expert Eric Schiffer warned before the film's release that the project was not only a threat to the estate of Kevin Costner, but also the financial kiss of death. Christine's fear of financial ruin was reportedly one of the factors in their divorce. A source told Life and Style that she was so terrified they'd wind up broke when Costner started putting up their property as collateral. At least that way, she got what the prenup guaranteed her and didn't have to sit around watching Kevin gamble away all his cash, the source said. When Costner was asked about Christine's fears in a May 2024 GQ interview, he stood his ground. "That's the message I want my kids to understand about who I am, that I do what I believe in. I have fear like everybody else. I don't want to be humiliated." Then came June 2024, and the moment Costner had been dreading became reality. Horizon, an American Saga Chapter 1, opened to a dismal $11 million at the box office against a $100 million budget. The reviews were mixed to negative, with critics calling it convoluted, disjointed, and self-indulgent. The New York Post's critic wrote, "I could not fathom committing another 540 minutes of my time to this bloated ego trip," adding it's hard to believe Costner left Yellowstone to make such an embarrassing, poorly told mess. The film limped through 6 weeks in theaters, ultimately grossing only $29 million domestically and $3.6 million internationally. For For a worldwide total of approximately $32.60 million, do the math, Costner invested $38 million of his own money. The film made $32 million total, even accounting for his 8% deal with Warner Bros. For distribution and the complicated revenue splits, Costner lost a massive amount of money. A Life and Style source said dramatically, Kevin could be wiped out by this disaster. Everyone warned him not to invest his own money, but he ignored the advice and ended up sinking $38 million of his own cash into it. Now he can kiss all that money goodbye. Another source said he's in a world of pain. Everything is caving in on him now. It's only a matter of time before he crumbles. As Horizon Chapter 1 bombed in theaters. The scheduled August 2024 release of Horizon Chapter 2 was cancelled. New Line Cinema pulled it from the calendar, giving the first film more time to find an audience before releasing the sequel. But that sequel has still never received a theatrical release. It premiered at the Venice Film Festival in September 2024, but remains in limbo. With no distribution deal and no clear path to theaters or streaming, Costner has publicly said he's already made 2 films in the series and is working on the third. But the financial reality is that, without a lifeline, he may not be able to complete his vision. In May 2024, even before Horizon bombed, Costner was already publicly begging for help. He told The Hollywood Reporter, "I need some more money. I do. I need some of these big billionaires with fucking boats from here to here who are fond of telling people they're billionaires to come with me and make a movie. I don't have the money they have, and I've already made 2 of them. Where are you, rich guys?" The desperation in that statement is heartbreaking. Here's Kevin Costner, once one of Hollywood's biggest stars, literally begging wealthy people to help him finish his passion project, The Hollywood. Reporter recently described Horizon as a financial fiasco and reported that sources say Costner doesn't always pay his bills on time, suggesting his financial situation is even more precarious than publicly known. Costner is reportedly in crisis meetings over his projects, trying to figure out how to move forward. An insider told Life and Style that behind the scenes, the whole Horizon project has been stressful to him financially, physically, and even intellectually. But he won't back down, though. There is one glimmer of hope. In December 2024, Horizon Chapter 1 landed on Netflix and landed in the top 10. According to Life and Style, this success on streaming has encouraged Costner, and sources say he's pressing forward with the rest of the films. But he needs money to do it. Kevin and his team need it to perform because right now, Netflix is the only company with deep enough pockets to completely bail him out of the hole Kevin has dug for himself with these movies, a source told Life and Style. Costner is reportedly hoping to finish this Saga in the next 18 months without having to cut too many corners if Netflix agrees to fund the remaining films. But there's no deal yet. Netflix hasn't committed to anything. And in the meantime, Costner, at 70 years old, faces the very real possibility that he's destroyed his financial security and his children's inheritance. Inheritance on a project that nobody wanted to see in theaters, he told Entertainment Weekly before the film's release. If we put so much pressure on that opening weekend, we're bound to be disappointed. I'm really happy that Horizon looks like what it's supposed to look like, and that's the way it'll look the rest of its life. But later, talking to E! News after the film flopped, Costner revealed the pain underneath the bravado. "I've faced life with people being dismissive of me, but they can't be dismissive of Horizon because now it's out of their hands. I know that this movie is going to play for the next 50 years. That statement sounds less like confidence and more like a man desperately trying to convince himself that his sacrifice wasn't in vain, that mortgaging his estate and losing tens of millions of dollars will somehow be vindicated by history. But the brutal reality is that at 70, Kevin Costner may not have 50 years to see if he was right." So where does this leave Kevin Costner? In February 2025, sources told Parade that Costner is actively looking for a new partner and has been having his agent set him up with women. Kevin's been having his agent set him up with women. He wants to date someone famous and well-known, an insider said, adding that Costner started having his agent make calls for him last spring. There were romance rumors with singer Jewel after numerous sightings together. But Costner told Howard Stern in June 2024 that their relationship was nothing more than platonic, saying, "We've never gone out, ever," A source told Hula in February 2025 that Costner wants to get out more and maybe meet the right person. He feels optimistic, concluding that 2025 is all about figuring out his projects and carving out time for his personal life. But beneath that optimistic spin is a more complicated reality. Costner is 70 years old, twice divorced, financially struggling, watching his ex-wife build a new life with someone else, and still trying to complete a film project that nobody in Hollywood believes in anymore. He's also navigating joint custody of 3 teenagers who witnessed their parents' bitter divorce and now have to split time between Costner and their mother's new blended family. Costner gave an update on his 94-year-old father Clint in January 2025, saying his father is doing good and describing him as a survivor and a trooper. When asked what he learned about resilience from older Hollywood legends, Costner's answer revealed his mindset. You don't complain, you don't whine, you just do. That's the Kevin Costner way. Suppress your pain, don't show weakness, keep working. Keep pushing forward even when everything is falling apart. But at what cost? At 70, after everything he's lost, is that stoic toughness serving him? Or is it preventing him from actually processing the grief, betrayal, and financial stress he's experiencing? Costner shares custody of Caden Hayes and Grace with Christine, and according to court documents, both parents are supposed to behave with each other and each child so as to provide a loving, stable, consistent, and nurturing relationship, even though they are divorced. But how do you provide stability and consistency when your entire life has been upended? How do you show up as a present, engaged father when you're worried about money, humiliated by your ex-wife's quick remarriage, and desperately trying to save a film project that's become a public embarrassment? The tragedy of Kevin Costner at 70 isn't just what happened to him, it's the choices he made that led here. He chose to prioritize Horizon over his marriage, spending years focused on a project while his wife felt abandoned. He chose to leave Yellowstone, the series that had revitalized his career and given him financial security, ostensibly to focus on Horizon, but also possibly because his marriage was falling apart. He chose to mortgage his estate and invest $38 million of his own money in a project that everyone around him warned was too risky. And he chose pride over pragmatism, refusing to scale back his vision even when it became clear audiences weren't interested. Now he's living with the consequences of those choices. His 19-year marriage is over, ended in humiliating public fashion. His ex-wife has remarried and moved on while he's still processing the loss. His dream project bombed so badly that it may have destroyed his financial security. His Santa Barbara estate, the home he shared with Christine and their children, may be at risk if he can't pay back the mortgage he took out. And at 70, he's starting over, trying to date again, trying to rebuild, trying to figure out how to be a father to his teenage children while also dealing with the wreckage of everything else. There's something deeply American about Kevin Costner's story, which is perhaps fitting for a man who's built his career on westerns and stories about American mythology. He's the rugged individualist who believed in his vision so strongly that he bet everything on it. He's the cowboy riding off alone, refusing to compromise or back down, even when everyone told him he was wrong. But, unlike the movies, real life doesn't guarantee that the hero wins in the end. Sometimes the cowboy loses everything. Sometimes the gamble doesn't pay off. Sometimes the woman you loved moves on with someone else, and the dream you mortgaged your future for becomes the thing that destroys you, Kevin Costner told GQ. I have fear like everybody else. I don't want to be humiliated. But the cruel irony is that in trying to avoid humiliation by proving he could make Horizon on his own terms, he may have created the very outcome he feared most. The divorce played out in public with every financial detail and custody argument exposed. The Horizon failure became a Hollywood cautionary tale. His ex-wife's remarriage to a family friend became gossip fodder. At every turn, the very things Costner tried to control spiraled beyond his control, leaving him exposed, vulnerable, and facing an uncertain future. But perhaps there's still hope. Horizon, finding an audience on Netflix, suggests that Costner's vision, while not commercial enough for theaters, may have value in other formats. His willingness to date again suggests he hasn't given up on finding love. His continued focus on his children shows he's trying to be a good father despite the circumstances. And his refusal to quit, while sometimes self-destructive, also shows a resilience that could carry him through this dark period. At 70, Kevin Costner's story isn't over yet, but the chapter he's in right now is undeniably heartbreaking. A reminder that even Hollywood legends aren't immune to loss, betrayal, and the consequences of our choices. At 70, Kevin Costner's heartbreaking truth is that everything he built over decades, his marriage, his financial security, his reputation, has crumbled in just 2 years. The divorce from Christine Baumgartner, her quick remarriage to a family friend, the catastrophic failure of Horizon, and the financial hole he's dug for himself have left him in what may be the darkest period of his life. But Costner, true to the characters he's played throughout his career, refuses to give up. He's still fighting to complete Horizon, still trying to build a new personal life, still showing up for his children despite everything. Whether he'll be able to recover financially, whether Horizon will find the audience and vindication he believes it deserves, whether he'll find love again after watching his ex-wife move on so quickly, only time will tell. But one thing is certain, Kevin Costner's story is a cautionary tale about the cost of obsession, the pain of betrayal, and how quickly life can change when you bet everything on a dream. What's your perspective on Kevin Costner's situation? Should he have compromised on Horizon to protect his financial security? Was Christine justified in moving on so quickly? And what does Costner's story teach us about the choices we make and the consequences we face? Share your thoughts respectfully in the comments below. If you found this deep dive moving and informative, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel for more untold stories about Hollywood's biggest stars. Hit that notification bell so you never miss our next video. Thanks for watching.